Welcome to Business Talk right here on businesstech.co.za, where, let's be honest, we slice through the corporate PR puff like a hot knife through amortized butter, and we get to the real stories that are shaping South Africa's business environment. And today we're talking about the bank that turned simplicity into a business model. Capitec has really become a household name for millions of retail customers, 24 million of them to be exact. But now they've got their eyes firmly set on the engine room of the South African economy, South Africa's small and medium businesses. They have for a couple of years now. And joining us to lift the lid on what Capitec is cooking up at the business banking kitchen is Amrei Botha, Divisional Executive of Client Experience Delivery at Capitec Business. It's all in the title, Amrei, Client Experience Delivery. I love that. Just kick off for us, because obviously the simplicity part of the business model is really your North Star at Capitec, and famously so. But SMEs can be complex little creatures. How have you carried that DNA of simplicity into the messier world of business banking?
Thank you, Michael. It's wonderful to be here today. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Simplicity is what we do at Capitec. And we've taken those same 4 fundamentals that Capitec is known for in the retail market into the business banking world and also into insurance more recently. And when we looked at the business banking landscape a couple of years ago, we realized that it's very complex. We realized that a lot of clients feel underserved or unserved. And we also realized that the historical mold and model of business banking in South Africa was ripe for change and ready for disruption. So we spent a lot of time engaging with small businesses and medium-sized businesses, businesses in the emerging market space, and really trying to understand what they're frustrated by and what their pain points are. And Michael, I would say that there were 3 things that stood out for us. The first was that the traditional business banking market was very hierarchically organized. So the bigger businesses who are successful, businesses who made it, those businesses typically tend to get the best service, the most senior bankers, and also the most concessionary pricing. So the best pricing, the best service model for the businesses who've made it, not necessarily for the typical small business that's starting out or still trying to make it.
So true.
And we were able to take that insight and we decided to build one account for all businesses. So whether you're really small or whether you're large and listed, it's one account for all businesses, keeping it simple. And I'll speak about the pricing that accompanies that one account in a moment. The second insight that we came to was that small businesses tend to be underserved or underserved. And most small businesses have to figure out banking, whether it's going to a branch or phoning a call center. They tend to be sent from pillar to post, needing to explain their story over and over again. And most small businesses are really time-strapped. They don't have time. Typically, their office hours are spent serving their clients, selling their goods, and yet that's when banking tends to happen. And so it really allowed us to apply our 4 fundamentals of simplicity, affordability, accessibility, and offering a personal service to the small business market. And maybe later we can talk a bit more about the service model that we've adopted. And the last insight big insight that we based our business bank model on was around the pricing structures. We looked across the competitor landscape and also internationally, and we saw that a lot of banks offer a number of different accounts, a number of different packages to small business owners. And small business owners are left figuring out, do I pay as I transact? Do I opt for a bundle? If my business grows, does a different pricing model now apply? But the biggest question we ask ourselves is, why does banking need to be more expensive just because you're a business? EFT is an EFT, a real-time payment is a real-time payment, a debit order is a debit order. And so we set on a path to disrupt the pricing model associated with business banking. And that allowed us not only to simplify pricing for businesses, but it also allowed us to adapt our pricing model, that we offer the same fees that our personal banking clients enjoy to our business clients as well. And that's allowed us to drop fees or enable businesses to save up to 50% on their bank charges. And we all know that businesses need to make every cent count. So that allows our clients to spend that money on salaries or on business expenses. And last year alone, we mentioned it in our recent annual results presentation, we were able to give back or save our businesses up to 289 million Rand in bank charges. And across a client base that is not yet as big as some of our competitors, it's a meaningful number back into the hands of small businesses.
And I think everything you've just touched on is music to every entrepreneur's ear who's listening or watching. And it actually boggles the mind that other banks haven't caught on to this, that businesses want simplicity, they want better service, and they want pricing that is fair at the end of the day. And why should you have different pricing because you're a business versus a consumer? Remarkable that if you're listed or unlisted, you get that one account. But let's talk about the human element in the service, because, in an era where chatbots are all over the place, banks are trying to automate everything, how are you ensuring that real human support is still there for business owners who need it so desperately in South Africa?
That's such a great juxtaposition, and it's one we grappled with when we first set on the journey of building our business bank. Our client insights and the time we spent with small and medium enterprises really revealed to us that they are time strapped. And when they're time strapped, they really want to be in control. They want to do banking on their device, in their pocket, and on the go. So we realized that our offering had to be digitally led. But we also, to your point, realized, and it links back to most small businesses being underserved or unserved, that there was this real need from small businesses for someone to hold their hand, for someone to explain to them processes and how things work, for someone to be there when the back's against the wall and they're not sure which way to go or what to do next. And so for us, our business bank is built on exactly that. It's digitally led, but it's relationship based. And those two amplify and complement each other. So we've built solutions that enable businesses to save time, to reduce some of that administrative tasks that may exist, because we know that they're time strapped and no one started a business to do admin or reconciliations or bookkeeping.
Exactly.
So digitally led, allowing clients to be in control and do what they need to do when they need it and where they need to do that. The other part was then being relationship based. And that's where technology has really enabled us. I think as Capitec buying Mercantile Bank, it was a going concern and profitable. So that's allowed us to really self-fund a lot of our investments. It's also allowed us to partner with world-class technology partners. And having the privilege of not legacy systems and being cloud-based and data-driven has really enabled us to put solutions in the hands of our staff. So maybe let me use some practical examples. I mentioned earlier that businesses typically feel like they need to explain their story over and over again and that they send from pillar to post. Through the use of technology, we've been able to build a single view of our clients. So how this plays out practically is if a client, for example, would choose to phone us, that client, our staff instantly know, even before they answer the phone call, who's phoning. They instantly get presented with a view of who is phoning, what business they're in, how long they've been in business, how many people they employ. So they know who the client is, and then they also have a view of that client's history with us. And that really empowers them in the moment that matters to show up in a way that matters to the client. Another example is that our clients have instant access to support. So on our app and on our online banking platform, if a client finds something difficult or they need some support in the moment or they're unsure of what to do, there's a button that they click on and they instantly connected to an actual staff member, not a bot, an actual staff member that can help them navigate that particular process or step. Clients can also engage with us in the medium that they choose because we're relationship based. So if they choose to chat chats available. If they choose a voice phone call, they're able to do that. If they want to engage via video, we can enable that. And if they want to engage with us in person, we've got 19 business centers and obviously the whole retail branch network that they can also walk into. And that choice in relationship, we found really important. And so I think, Michael, technology has really allowed us to amplify the service experience for our staff by combining technology with the human and making the human really the hero. At Capitec, our staff, our business center staff and our relationship suite staff, they're incredible at what they do, extremely passionate. To your earlier point, we know SMEs are the drivers and the engines of our economy. They're really passionate about that vision and making that a reality. And our branch staff and call center agents are phenomenal. And technology has really enabled them to show up and be the heroes in the moment of client interaction.
And I love that single view of the customer, because I, as a customer, often, I think the word silo was invented in a bank sometimes. And it's another one of those 4-letter words. Banks understand risk, but they seem to, as a legacy, understand silos. If you go into a credit card department, you've got to go through a kind of FICA KYC process. If it's telephonically, then you want to go to mortgages and you've got to go through the same thing. You say, well, I'm in the same institution. Don't you recognize me? So having the ability, because you don't have those legacy systems, to finally get rid of that is hugely important, and give time back, because I think time is probably one of the most valuable resources for SMEs. But how do you do all of this in a secure way? And I was recently at the IT Web Security Summit. And cybersecurity, I think, is top of mind for most business owners, especially in this world of AI, where you can spoof people and pretend to be someone you're not so convincingly. What are you doing to make sure that your business clients don't get caught off guard?
I think that's such an important aspect, Michael. It's most small businesses are not experts on cybersecurity or security. And I often, when I speak to clients, I hear that they refer to, well, banking, you need to help me protect my business and my money. So there's a definite expectation from client side that we protect them. I think at Capitec, we have a vision to become the most trusted brand. We know that trust is such a fundamental aspect of banking, and so we take that very seriously. So there's a couple of dimensions to it. The first is making sure that internally our standards around compliance and security is world class. So that's something we take extremely seriously. From a client perspective, we introduce typically layers of defense. Making sure that we combine things like biometrics, data monitoring models, to ensure that our clients are protected seamlessly and intuitively in the way they do banking through our systems and processes. We also have dedicated teams that focus on developing fraud or mechanisms, features that protect clients against fraud. And that's all they do. They don't do any other type of work. They're specialists and experts in terms of launching products and features and processes in a way that protects our clients' funds. Another counterbalance to that is clients want to be in control. So especially in the business bank space, clients want sometimes to delegate certain responsibilities to other people in their business. Or in the case of multi-owner entities, different people are performing different tasks on a bank account or accessing credit and other products. So we also have that responsibility of enabling businesses to operate their business in a way they want, but protecting them in terms of how they do it. So how do they assign rights and permissions? How do they see who's done what on their bank accounts? How do we enable them to have authorization flows and segregation of duty in the way they do banking? So that's extremely important. And then I think authentication. So at Capitec, we use Selfie quite effectively. And that really makes sure that we protect who accesses a bank account and how they do it. And then I think last but not least is working with the authorities to combat crime where we see it happening. So there's multiple dimensions to it, Michael, and it's one of the things we really obsess about at Capitec is how do we protect our clients, and how do you make sure that clients regard us as a trusted brand.
Yeah, and as you say, it's something you've got to work at constantly. But I'm pleased to hear that you collaborate, as part of that suite, because I think it's a big, as an ecosystem thing that we need to encourage is greater collaboration, information sharing to get ahead of those bad actors. But striking that balance, because that's exactly what business owners want: the ability to have the cool new plugins, open APIs, everything else to do, like integrate with your cloud accounting and all of that. But you want to be able to do it with confidence, and that's certainly what Capitec is thinking long and hard about. Every good banking story needs a real world hero, though. So maybe you can give us an example of a business client whose journey has really improved dramatically thanks to Capitec Business.
Yeah, Michael, it's I mean, these are the special stories. It's how we show up at work. It's why we do what we do, in the relentless way that we try and improve the client experience. It's difficult to choose just one or two. We actually, on our social media handles at the moment, we've got a number of videos of clients who we've journeyed with, showcasing their story in a video format. So anyone interested can go have a look at that on the Capitec LinkedIn page and Facebook and YouTube and all the rest. But our passion is to help SMEs to grow, because we believe that if they grow, they create jobs, and that ultimately fuels our economy. So maybe one example, a client called Freddie from Limpopo, and Freddie has a acha factory. He manufactures acha, and he was really struggling at one point with his cash flow. The demand for his product was increasing, but he couldn't keep pace with producing as much as he needed to fulfill that demand. And so we assisted him with an overdraft of 250,000 Rand. And as a result, he was able to produce more. We also supported him with a card machine, and we've recently this year disrupted that space with very competitive pricing on card transactions, so more businesses can receive card payments, and by doing so, we eliminate cash, which is also a big risk in the South African context. But anyway, back to Freddie. Freddie was then able to produce more. As a result of producing more and meeting the increased demand for his product, he was able to employ 2 more people. So he now employs 6 people. And Freddie is going from strength to strength, looking to acquire another premises where he could set up another manufacturing depot. So that's just one example. Another example, perhaps, to share is Ntabiseng, that very passionately and beautifully told us around how growing the business enabled someone to qualify for a home loan, and that by qualifying for a home loan with us, the person, I actually want to say it verbatim, a new standard was set for my family, and going forward, no one will live in an informal dwelling ever again. And it's just stories of how people are able to walk taller in their community. That's the words they use. How they can have more confidence. How they are able to not only support their immediate family better, but their extended family better. And so for us, it is truly around more than just business banking. It's really growing SMEs, creating jobs, and changing lives for the better.
Cheapest. I mean, that should be all of our mission and purpose in South Africa. It reminds me of what I think was Jack Ma said when he came to the country in 2018 for the president's, one of his first investment summits. And he said, the secret sauce in China, and you saw this huge economic transformation in China, but one of the biggest things was making entrepreneurs your everyday hero and really focusing relentlessly on how do we make entrepreneurship, the cool thing everyone wants to talk about, become, do. And, as a bank, you're facilitating all of that. But, a lot of it is about integration. You can't do it all your own. And it's about partnership, isn't it? So, you've got best of breed in, say, accounting software or POS systems or other platforms. Are there any current or upcoming partnerships that you're particularly excited about?
Yeah, we continuously look for partners. Our intent is to make banking simpler for SMEs. Like I mentioned earlier, no small business starts a business to do admin. None of them are passionate about it. It's a grudge thing they do after hours. And by the way, that's also our banking hours for our business bank is after hours, because that's when most businesses need support. Um, so yeah, I think there are three areas, perhaps, Michael, I can focus on. The one thing is around, and it's three key problem areas for small businesses. The one is getting paid. So how do I get paid as a small business owner and ensure that I get paid? And so in the payment space, there's a lot of partnerships and innovations that we're busy with to give business owners not only more methods of receiving payments from their clients, but also make it easier for their clients in turn to do so more easily. And complementary to that is all the payment reconciliation work to know who's paid me, who's not paid me, how much have I received in a particular day. So getting paid is a key area that we look at. Another area we look at is making payments. And there specifically, from our perspective, again, the diversity in payment mechanisms that we offer. But to kind of link back to what you said earlier is the accounting software integration and some of the other solutions that link to that. We're exploring, for example, things around stock management and inventory management for some businesses. So there's a lot of opportunity in not only just the payment space, but all the ancillary business processes that sits around that and how we can support businesses better. And then the last area that we're extremely passionate about, we think this is the biggest catalyst for enabling small and medium enterprises, is access to credit, business loans. And so there we've extensively used data and exploring some AI tools as well to give businesses instant access to credit. We know that cash flow challenges is real in the small business market. We know that at the time when you need a loan, there's no time for lengthy application forms and submitting business plans and doing all of that. So we've spent a lot of time focusing on how we can offer instant credit to small business owners. And so I think those are the three areas where we're exploring partnerships, but also where we're focusing our efforts. There's a lot that one can do to support small businesses, but for us at Capitec, focus is really important and doing what we choose to do really, really well.
Yeah, don't spread yourself too thin. And that's certainly your outgoing CEO, Harry Faree, always repeated that at every results presentation. And, a big part of that success that you've enjoyed, apart from simplicity, is that absolute focus. I'm very excited to see what you do with all of this data that you're going to be gathering in the SME ecosystem, because the more data you have, the better you can serve that economy. You can turn thin file customers into thicker file customers, easing that access to credit. So very exciting time. But, let's face it, South Africa, we've got businesses of all shapes and sizes. We've got sole traders, you've got side hustlers, you've got team scaling. How are you tailoring your services and all of these digital tools to meet those very different needs without overcomplicating things?
It's a very good question, and especially in our context as at Capitec. I mentioned earlier that we've chosen to offer one account for life for all businesses, irrespective of size. One fee structure for all businesses, irrespective of size. All of our staff have access to the same tools and technologies to offer a same service experience to all of our clients. And so it's extremely important for us to, within that framework, to still meet the specific nuances and needs of particular clients. And that really comes through the data and the insights. Because of the knowledge we have and the single view of client we have, we're able to understand for a particular client which solution may be next relevant to them, or in a moment of interaction, what matters most to this client because of what they've experienced yesterday. or if we see some potential warning signals, how do we engage a client around those concerns that we're picking up? And I think that's really where the tailoring comes in, Michael. It's not necessarily in developing a product set unique to every industry or unique to every size business or unique to every business life cycle, but to use the data and the knowledge we've got of clients to meet them in the moments that matter where they are at, and then deliver that personal experience in that engagement.
And that's why they say in data we trust, in God we trust, everyone else bring data. I think that was the saying at the IT Web Security Summit. Anyway, great chatting to you, Amrei Botha from Capitec Business, and for sharing how you're thinking about SME banking with this very fresh client-first lens, and showing us that simpler doesn't have to mean smaller or less efficient. I think it's clear that Capitec is aiming to make banking work just as hard as the entrepreneurs that it serves. So great pleasure having you here on Business Talk. Take care.
Thank you, Michael.